Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving straight into what is, without a doubt, the most famous unsolved mystery in American history. But honestly, forget the textbooks for a second. At its core, this is an incredibly emotional human true story. It's the story of John White, his family, and a community of early settlers who literally vanished without a trace over 400 years ago. And the crazy part? We're only just now finally figuring out what actually happened to them. Part 1, The Vanished Family.
You know, we often think of Roanoke as this massive historical event, but it's really the story of a grandfather's absolute worst nightmare. Put yourself in John White's shoes for a minute. Imagine it's been 3 agonizing years away. You're finally sailing back to the coast of what is now North Carolina. You're so desperate to see your family that you order your captain to fire cannons, and you have your crew loudly playing trumpets from the deck, just hoping to announce your arrival and see your family come running down to the shore. But instead of cheers, you are met with absolutely dead silence.
When Governor John White finally stepped onto Roanoke Island in August of 1590, the settlement was completely empty. He was looking for his daughter Eleanor, his son-in-law, and his baby granddaughter Virginia Dare, who was the very first English child born in America. But there was nothing. No bodies, no graves, and chillingly, there were absolutely no signs of a struggle or any violence. They were just gone. Part 2, Doomed from the Start. So to understand how this unbelievable vanishing act actually happened, we have to look at how rapidly things went wrong from the literal moment they arrived. The expedition's pilot dropped them off at the wrong location, refusing to take them further north to the Chesapeake Bay like they planned. And because they were dropped at the site of a previous failed colony, well, supplies quickly ran dangerously low, and relations with local tribes got really tense. The colonists essentially forced Governor White to go back to England for emergency supplies in late 1587. But when he got there, Queen Elizabeth I had commandeered every available ship to fight the Spanish Armada. White was trapped in England by a war, completely helpless, for 3 full years. 115. That is the total number of men, women, and children who were left stranded on Roanoke. See, it was a deliberate choice to send families because the organizers believed they'd be way more committed to a permanent life in the New World. It was among these 115 people that Eleanor Dare gave birth to little Virginia, just 3 weeks after landing. These weren't just soldiers, they were families trying to survive. Part 3, One Word Left Behind. Now, when White finally made it back to those silent shores, on what actually happened to be Virginia Dare's 3rd birthday, he found a prearranged code. Before he left, he and the colonists had an agreement. If they had to relocate, they would carve their destination into a tree or post. If they were forced to leave in distress or under attack, they would carve a cross above the name. Well, when White searched the deserted settlement, he found the wooden houses had been deliberately dismantled. They weren't destroyed in a panic. They were carefully taken apart to use the timber elsewhere. And carved neatly on a post was a single word, CROATOAN, with absolutely no distress cross. CROATOAN was an island roughly 50 miles south, and it was home to a friendly Native American tribe. White desperately wanted to sail there right that second to find his family. But heartbreakingly, a series of catastrophic setbacks, severe storms, broken anchors, dwindling supplies, forced his ship's captains to abandon the search and sail for the Caribbean. John White never returned to the Americas. He died in Ireland a few years later, and he never knew his family's fate. Part 4, Theories of the Lost. For over 4 centuries since that devastating day, historians and archaeologists have intensely debated what actually happened, and it's led to a wide range of unproven possibilities. Some folks believe they attempted an impossible ocean escape back to England in tiny boats. Others point to the controversial Dare stones found back in the 30s and 40s, which tell this super dramatic story of disease and attack, though most historians consider them straight-up forgeries. Then there are theories of massacres by hostile tribes or competing Spanish forces. But the thing is, there isn't a single shred of physical evidence, no graves, no signs of mass violence, to support any of that. Which brings us to the most likely possibility: integration with the CROATOAN tribe. Part 5, the 2025 scientific breakthrough. This whole narrative completely shifts when we look at an incredible modern archaeological breakthrough made on Hatteras Island, which is the modern name for CROATOAN Island. In May 2025, researchers unearthed 2 significant piles of what is known as hammer scale. Basically, this is the direct byproduct of blacksmithing. Because the local Croatoan people had no tradition of forging iron, finding this hammer scale buried under historic material is quite literally the strongest physical evidence yet that English colonists not only reached the island, but they set up shop and were forging the tools they needed for a new life. Kathleen Duval, a history professor at UNC, put it perfectly here. This discovery firmly anchors our modern understanding of the mystery. The evidence heavily suggests the colonists didn't just vanish into thin air. Instead, they made a rational, planned decision to relocate to friendly territory when their supplies ran low.
And this archaeological discovery doesn't stand alone. Ongoing genetic research among the Lumbee people of North Carolina and other regional native tribes actually aligns perfectly with the physical evidence. While experts do caution that DNA alone can't definitively confirm the connection just yet, researchers are finding possible European genetic markers that point heavily toward the colonists gradually assimilating with native populations over generations.
Part 6. A New Life. So, that brings us to where this historic investigation stands today. And it fundamentally reframes this historic tragedy into a really remarkable story of human survival and adaptation, because the search is far from over. Right now, going into 2026, the First Colony Foundation is actively using cutting-edge, ground-penetrating radar. They're searching for buried structures beneath known Native American sites on Hatteras Island. They are looking for that next definitive piece of proof that the colonists integrated with these friendly native groups in order to survive. They didn't disappear, they adapted. Which leaves us with this final, truly provocative thought to take away. For centuries, we've treated these 115 people as lost, but the most likely answer is that they didn't disappear at all. They simply chose to become someone else. It invites us to completely reimagine the story. Picture young Virginia Dare, the very first English child born in America, not as a victim of some mysterious vanishing, but growing up strong, speaking Algonquian, and living as a member of a Native American tribe in ways her English parents could never have even imagined. After 440 years, the lost colony is finally giving up its secrets. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and keep questioning history.